Hello, everybody, fans of our network here. Today, we are talking about countries. My name is Chris, and my friend talking with me today is Brian. So, Brian, what do you have to say about the topic of countries? How can we educate people on further knowledge of countries?
Well, the first thing I think of when I think of countries is borders. Like they're separated. It's land, and it's separated by like borders that have been established over time. To say this is this country, this is that country, France.
Yeah, but they're are these borders real? Because you see them on a map and it's like a line and you're like, oh, there's the border, but then you go to it and it'll just be some open land. So I don't really know about borders, Brian, but I'll let you continue on borders if you wanted to explain further.
I think of maps when I think of countries, and I'm like, the overview, say Denmark, that's above Italy, say. They touch, but there's that border there that separates them, and that's what's distinguishing Denmark from Italy.
So you're not allowed to go over to the other place?
No, I think you can. It's like, but you need a passport or like maybe a permission slip from like the president of each country, maybe.
I know they have like check marks and toll booths and stuff when you're trying to go to a different place. I've paid for one to go to another place before, but when you're talking about borders, Brian, it's a tough concept for people because somebody might want to go to another place, and there's a border there, and they don't know what to do. You know, they're like, how can I get over to this new land? When somebody's telling me that there's a border here, and I really understand that concept.
Well, distinctively, borders are, patrolled maybe by
Army men and shit. They're patrolled by army men all the time.
Yep. Well, they have a border patrol on one of our borders that they talk about, like, maybe we need more people there to look at who's coming in, who's not, who's leaving, and
yeah, I know, but like the army men are what make it hard to feel like you can go anywhere without getting in trouble.
You're talking about the guys, like, they have the guns, they have the army uniforms, like, and they kind of make you not at, like, it's uneasy. Like, you're not at ease with trying to cross the border because they seem to have, like, some power in that area of whether you can cross the border or not.
Exactly. They're trying to tell me if I can go over to this other place or not. And they are the army guys, so what can I do? So that's really tough for me. But as far as countries, you're talking about borders, which is a very, very important factor for people to think about. I'm going to talk about capitals, and I think that capitals of countries are a big deal. I think that a lot of people live in the capitals of countries, and I think that the economy in the capitals of countries is probably the best there is. You go out to the outsides of a country, and there's villages and smaller towns. And those towns, the economy isn't as good as the capital. So I just really want to talk about capitals.
Well, I agree that the capitals, it's actually the most that has the most power. Like, you'll have government people there, guys that will be going into the really old-looking buildings that kind of signify if like laws are being made or enforced, and of course money's going to be flowing in, and the economy of the capital is going to be recognizably stronger than a village. Like you said, the village might have few people, households.
Right, and the villages don't have those old important buildings that you were talking about. And the old important buildings that you just mentioned, which are very important in capitals, they have special cleaning people that come in and make sure that those buildings look nice and clean. And then the villages, they don't have cleaning people, so their homes look worse and kind of dusty looking and filled with like hay stacks and stuff. And so
Right, and like with the cleaning people, the janitors, you might call them janitors.
right, custodian.
They probably live in the capital too. They're not, traveling from the village, so they're part of the whole capital. They're community members. They're,
Yeah, the janitors are getting paid by the president of the country to clean the cool buildings. And that's like an important job, and they get paid well, and they get to live in the capital, and everybody else in that country just lives in smaller houses and stuff. And I don't know, I just think it's weird.
yeah. In geography class, they'll teach you like learn this capital, learn that capital. Try to memorize these capitals and then take a test. So the geography teachers, they must really think that there's something special there with capitals. And so
Exactly. So well said, Brian. That's part of the main reason I brought up capitals.
well, and there's so many other things to consider with countries, because they have, like, our country has states inside the country,
It's crazy.
and other countries have provinces or
Districts, regions,
districts,
regions.
areas of, yep, there. And then there's like parks, like national parks, and some of those are kind of big, but that's not like a city.
I know. Yeah, it's mostly wilderness and stuff. I don't know. The whole thing with how countries are built is crazy to me. You're talking about parks?
Well, yeah, parks, I think they're established by the people in the capital. Like you'll see like words on like a sign when you go to the parks, and I think the government in the capital maybe said, this is our park that we want.
Yep. They're trying to tell you what's important about that park. And then you have mountain ranges inside countries. No cities can be built on mountains for the most part. So you're never going to have a capital on a mountain range.
Well, capitals are located along water, usually, like maybe like a river. Maybe some of the capitals are on an ocean. Some of the capitals are centrally located. So
Very good point for people to know. Yeah, like if you're in another country and you're looking for a capital, if you don't have a map, just look near water.
near water or in the center, like if you're in the middle of a country, you might run into a capital, and you gotta be ready.
If you don't have a map and you're looking for a capital, just look near water or start heading towards the center of that country. So as far as countries go, I'm gonna talk about France. France, the shape of the country is very nice. They're connected to the ocean, and the current president of France talks about his people and all the food that they have there, which is enough for the people. So I've just been hearing a lot about the president of France and all the food that he has for them. So
Yeah, I recently saw something where he did speak aloud about food, but I think he's moved on to other things, like maybe like roads and like talking about connecting different cities to their capital.
really, yeah, that's awesome. I haven't heard that. Yeah, last I knew it was just mostly about the food. So you're saying you've heard recently he's talking about more roads and stuff near the mountains or something, or?
I did see him on TV. He was up there. He was talking about the roads, maybe connecting different cities, and various landscapes were mentioned, like mountains and rivers and stuff. But I think he was mainly trying to like really make emphasis on roads, cities, capital. But that was just France. Other countries, maybe a country in Africa is thinking about getting around the desert or maybe a rainforest. And
Right. Well, the president of France, when you recently heard him talking about roads, was he giving a speech like out in front with lots of people to listen to him about the roads, or?
He was. They set it up like it was on a TV. So like it was something where it was like an event where he was speaking to his people about getting the roads to be better for the people.
And you saw lots of people listening to him, or?
I heard clapping, and I remember that seemed like people were there. Like,
okay,
but it was mainly focused. The camera was pointed at him, and he was speaking.
Okay, so they never show. Okay, so well, I want the people to be there listening to their president about the roads and the food and everything, because that'll make a country feel happier and be a better place to live. So, moving from France, where do you say we go for a good example of a country? I don't know. Let's go Australia. They have that. Dry, kind of crappy land, like in the back areas of their country, but more towards like the south and stuff. There's some beaches and shit, and I think that Australia is a decent country with a decent president.
What the fuck? Well, what I see with Australia is it's like an island country.
For sure.
And so, like, it has lots of beaches. Like you said, in the south.
Right.
I think they might have cliffs to the north. Like cliffs, like instead of a beach, like maybe like a cliff.
I've heard of the cliffs, never seen them, though. So, continue, though.
And you said, like, the back parts of there's, like, brush and, like, maybe, like, kangaroos, like, jumping around and stuff, and I think roadways do intersect with like different like shrubs and stuff, but I do think that most of the people live in the east, maybe like north and south and stuff. So
yeah, I think it's the west of Australia that's all shrubs and dry sticks and crappy land. But I hear there's people that do live in that west crappy land. I think they're like bush people or bushwhacker, something like that. But
yeah, they have like vests and like maybe like a hat with like animal teeth on their hat and stuff.
Yeah, and they hunt for animals, and they're wearing the vest, of course. But it's crazy that they live out there. But I think they're happy in the crappy part. I think that they still do okay. So they're happy. There's crappy parts in every country. So we'll move on to Canada. How about Canada? Any crappy parts?
Well, my first thought with like Canada is like it's north, and so it gets snowy up there. Like there's going to be like really really cold places.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, like, and bears might, like, be in the woods up there and stuff.
I'm always thinking about bears, So...
Like, yeah, Canada, like, hockey players might, like, know the area really well, and the bears might get in the way, but, like, I think the hockey players get from one game to the other.
Well, do you think a bear has ever eaten a hockey player up there?
I do think that happens. I mean, hockey players are tough, but bears get pretty big, like...
Yeah, and even if the hockey player had his stick with him, the stick's not going to really help defend him from the bear. I think the hockey player would probably get eaten by the bear.
If I was a hockey player, what I would try to do is maybe take the stick and maybe, like, hit the eyes of the bear, like, jab it maybe with two hands, like, into the eyes of the bear, maybe, like, try to get the stick into the bear's mouth and, like, stop the bear from biting me. And so, like, the hockey player has a better chance than, say... maybe like a grocery store clerk would have, because the clerk doesn't have much. They maybe have their purse on them, or like maybe like a handbag, and
yeah,
hockey player is going to be in full pads and with a stick, and so
you're right. His pads will protect him from the bear a little bit. I didn't take that into consideration earlier in our conversation.
Well, if he's just getting out of a game and like traveling in the woods of Canada, he's probably tired though from the game too. So
True, his energy levels will be down, but he's still going to be wearing all his pads, so that might protect him from the bear. But anyway, aside from bears and things like that in Canada, it's a beautiful land up there. It's cold, snowy, but there's a lot of lakes, a lot of good fishing. Now I'm going to switch it down to Brazil. We're going to talk about that country since we're on the topic of countries today, for those of you just tuning in. So Brazil, it's got some rainforest, got some jungle, got some problems sometimes. It gets a little hot down there. Beaches, I hear, get overcrowded during the summer. But, as far as Brazil, I still think that the houses there do a really good job at helping out families and stuff.
well, it's true. I've seen pictures of their housing, and it looks like they're all like different colors of houses, like all in the same area, like in the city. There'll be red and blue and pink and all sorts of colored houses. And I think the people are just really content, because if it was me, those wouldn't be the houses that I would be living in. So they must like it that way because it's hotter. There might be like different jobs that they have than we have here, and they're living in different ways. And I can tell when I see pictures and like paintings of Brazil that the housing there really satisfies their inhabitants. I mean, to say nothing of the flooding that goes in there and all the wind, but.
Yep, the wind is crazy. I talked to a person from Brazil last year. The wind's crazy, and they have those pink houses and blue houses, and sometimes that wind tears some of the color of the paint off their house, and it's not a good deal for them. So we think about Brazil and their houses. And
lots of rain, Chris.
Oh, there's rain.
So like wind we mentioned and flooding. Well, flooding's a part of like when it rains. Like I think that I've seen in pictures, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they use buckets. They'll use buckets to maybe like gather rainwater and maybe dispense of it with the bucket instead of allowing it to perhaps fall where they don't want it.
Yeah, I've seen the buckets you're talking about. I don't like it. Think about rain in a country, and I don't want the bucket to be there. And it just really bugs me. Like I wish they just had a water system that would be efficient enough to where you don't need the bucket, but.
You're saying buckets are like kind of a thing of the past. Like
they are a thing of the past. And when I think about countries, I don't want to think about the bucket and the rain and stuff. So,
well, I just want to say that buckets or no, my heart goes out to Brazil, and I think that they have a good president, and I think he's got him on the right track as far as like location of like housing and all sorts of things with money.
The good thing the president does in Brazil, the good thing he does, even though I'm not a big fan of the buckets, is he does tell his citizens where to put the buckets. And that's helpful. If you're needing to put the buckets somewhere, you want a leader, an advisor. So we're talking about placement of buckets, and it's kind of crazy, but you got a president telling you where the buckets should go to be more helpful for you and your family. That's how a president should be. So when we're talking about countries, we're talking about the president of Brazil. So yeah, I think we covered most about the topic of countries today. What do you think, Brian? Do you think we covered most of it, or?
I think we're close to hitting every spot that we wanted to as far as capitals and
right, capitals, borders, yeah,
buckets.
Yeah. So yeah, all right. So we covered most of it, and
presidents, and
yeah, we got the presidents, mountain ranges, things like that. So everything that need to be known about countries, I think we covered today. If there's any questions, feel free to comment down below or email. and we will answer any other country questions you may have, even though we think we covered most of it. So, all right, from Chris and Brian on countries, we will see you next time.